Going. Welcome to the stream. I'm going to be working on my comic as usual. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to drop it in the chat and just tag me in it. Getting close to the end. This is page 18 out of 23. Okay. Alright, let's see which ones. I'm going to do fills for first. Layer everything out. Just turn off all these layers and just go through it piece by piece. Okay. Whoops. I didn't catch any of Dan's stream earlier. What happened? The size of this is, I'll tell you, 9,000 by 12,000 pixels, 450 DPI. When's the book coming out? I'm going to be hopefully funding it in the summer. I don't know how long it'll take to get everything printed and shipped, but definitely before the end of the year, I would hope. Well, you can never bet on anything with international prints and stuff, but yeah, be self-publishing and just fulfilling it all. I already have all the like infrastructure for it, so it's no big deal. Been working on my first comic, and your streams really helped me lock in and draw alongside you. Thank you for the good vibes. Yeah, of course. I used to like doing that, just hanging out with people, even if it was just over Skype or something, just somebody to kind of work with. some other artist. You're just both focused on getting something done. How do you manage layers on something complex like this, or your Diablo paintings with multiple elements? With this one, I don't really have to think about it too much because I know the general like logic. Like I don't label everything. I just know how things are stacked. So it's basically like if I know an element of inks is going to sit on top of another piece, I'll just have that be its own layer on top of the one, you know, that it's laying over. Like this. This is just how I structure it, just kind of like stacks down. But that's it for the comics, is really just, you know, whatever the closest thing is in the frame that has its own layer, and then it's like foreground, middle ground, background. That's kind of how I have it all planned out. Doing a big painting though, the big paintings are a little different because they just take like a million elements to create. So I actually put everything into folders usually when I work on that. So every chunk of a piece that has to be separated, I'll keep them in their own specific folders within this stack of layers, you know. So that's really it. Because I don't know, some people are very anal about like how they do all their layered organization. I'm just not. I know it's, you know, put a certain way, so I never really have to think about it. Got an approximate date for the next challenge. Eager to see what will come out of it. I wanted to do it a while ago, but I just need like a little bit of breathing room around my Diablo deadlines. I had like I had a pretty long extension of a deadline on the past thing I did for them, which was the Diablo season 4 artwork. So that just kind of like bled into the next thing they needed from me. So I kind of just like got a little jacked up on time from that. But I hope to do it soon, because I've already done the actual samples for that challenge. I don't know if I could pull it up here without spoiling stuff. Here, let me mute my screen here. I have to do this to not share NDA stuff. Okay, let me just pull up this guy. So I put together like an actual style test. Okay, here we go. This right here was what I put together just to show like how the character concepts are going to go for the challenge. So you'd be able, so like the point of this challenge, anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, is that everybody who's a part of the community on Discord from the Patreon, they're going to art direct me through a video game and basically design characters and splash art, key art for a game, and vote on what direction we go in genre wise, in terms of just like the style and also, you know, gameplay, and then how we're going to kind of like build out our types of units and things, or characters, or whatever it is, factions. There's going to be any number of things depending on where this goes. But anyway, this was the first character I did just for that post. but I'm so worried about just like committing to it right now and not being able to like deliver on it week to week. The idea is to show anybody who's interested in getting into games what that process is actually like. So that would essentially be it. I'd be throwing like curveballs at myself and then having you vote on what the curveball is and that sort of thing. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that I am thinking about it. that's the thing for it. That's the first example, so people have an idea of what it's going to be like. Hey Dave, when you used to send messages to art directors, did you send with your portfolio attached or waited for a response first? If it was an email that was basically like understood to be, you know, a submission email, then I would definitely attach my work. If it were just to like an art director, I might just send my portfolio. I think what I used to do was send like a couple attachments, just like a select few images, and basically just let them know that I'd be interested in working on whatever they have at the moment. But it just depends on what the expectation is from that email. Is it just like a personal email of an art director, or is it meant to showcase artwork from potential, you know, employees? Thanks for the kind words, Owlland. Oh, hold on a second. I have my kid's monitor right here, and I just looked down at it, and he wasn't in bed. Oh my god. Immediately ran and laid down. Making believe he's been sleeping. Hey Dave, do you have any friends who work full-time for video game companies? Do they like it? I did for a while, but hated it. It's kind of a mixed bag. I feel like I've heard all sides of that. It's like I've heard people who love their job, and I don't know, I feel like they're all different. Depends where you work at. I mean, I just know lots of people, so that's why I have that perspective, you know. I've heard all sides of that. Do I still get offers for comic covers? I do, but I don't usually take them because for the amount of work that they are for me, I have plenty of other jobs that I could be working that pay way more for the same amount of time. So it just doesn't make sense to do it. I'll ask, you know, Marvel, and actually DC pays all right for as far as comics go, but it's still not enough. But I've asked them to raise rates and things on comic covers, or just bump, you know, my rate to something I could do, because I do get asked all the time to work on Marvel stuff. It just doesn't make any sense to do it for me. What if it was line art style rather than a painting? What do you mean? For comics? Just realized I didn't deselect the outside of that. How long does a comic cover take to do? Depends what it is. I try not to spend more than like a day and a half or so on a comic cover. Like if I'm actually scheduling out my time and I have a million other things to do, I usually just go like do the best possible job within this amount of time. So I go with more like iconic kind of compositions for covers because I feel like they grab people better anyway. So doing like close-ups and things and single character shots with strong compositions, that's usually what I aim at. So between like a day and a day and a half. What does a comic book cover pay now? They're kind of all over the place. I mean, they're anywhere from like $750 all the way to like a few thousand. If you go like the independent route, some people will pay more money, but nothing that's like I'm saying nothing in relation to like when I was working, let's say like 15 years ago or plus that, it was the same kind of price. Like that's kind of the hard part about these jobs is that like with inflation and everything and it just doesn't make any sense to work on jobs like that when you could be, in my case, working on like game stuff or whatever else, like day rate projects. It's just way more responsible to do that. Like if I'm going to spend my time away from my family drawing something for somebody, then I definitely want to be compensated the most. Especially when I have like all these other projects I'd love to be doing. Then I can actually spend time away from work for a bit if the job's good enough. Rygat says, I mean, if you were offered a comic cover gig, but weren't expecting to paint it, if they said, hey, we love the way you did this comic, maybe do something like that. Yeah, I mean, I would do that, but it just depends on what it is. I wouldn't just say like yes to that automatically. I'm definitely a family guy. Feels super bizarre to be able to just draw a story from my head and show people what I was thinking. It's just the weirdest thing. It's just like when I was just like sitting here thinking like, what am I actually doing? It's so bizarre. I just had like this dumb thought in my head. Now I'm just drawing it. Where can you find my brushes? I have a bunch on Patreon, but the one that you're watching me use here, this is just like chalk brushes kind of deal in Photoshop. In terms of the one I inked this comic with, that's a brush that comes for free with Krita when you download it. I just did like some slight changes to it, but yeah, that's a brush that comes with it. How many pixels do I contract the selection by? I just did 1 pixel. I could do 2, but these lines are pretty thin. What genre is this comic? Good question. I don't know. I guess it's like sci-fi, I guess. I mean, it's more like a mythology type of thing. Kim and Dave, if you guys ever get the chance to get to Melbourne, Australia, easily one of the coolest and artsy cities on the planet, I think you'd really dig the vibe there. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'd be fun to go. I like anti-art places. You guys watch a lot of movies? Any recents you can suggest? Trying to add to my list. I haven't watched really anything much. Trying to think of the last movie I even saw. Go watch Buckaroo Banzai. No, I watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space the other night. I was like obsessed with that movie when I was little. Just like the music and the intro, and then all the crazy effects and just how cool they all looked. And when you're a kid, you can kind of shrug off all the shitty stuff. Yeah, the theme song's great. Killer Clowns. Hey, David Post, if you are in your 20s with no wife or kids or family, would it be responsible to try to be an illustrator and comic artist like Travis Charest. I never know how to say his last name. And Jarrell Perel. No. I mean, I don't think it's... I don't feel like that would be the case anyway. I'm not saying you couldn't make money doing it, but I'm just saying in my case in particular, I do have the option to work on these like other projects. So for me specifically, I feel like it would be irresponsible of me to do those jobs, even if I do think like, oh yeah, Venom's cool. Like, I just probably shouldn't do it. Occasionally, I say yes to those types of jobs, just because I don't want to fully fall out of favor with people. Like I still like doing them, I just can't really do them. So whenever that does come up, I and I do have like a little bit of time, I'll say yes to a cover here and there, just like a variant. Buckaroo Banzai is kind of amazing. Love that movie. Did you know it was originally going to be a sequel to Big Trouble in Little China? Really? That's crazy. Yeah, that Buckaroo Banzai is one of the first movies I ever saw in my life. Like, we just had the VHS when I was super little. And I used to watch that and like E.T. and a couple other movies like every day. You should watch Challengers. I don't really know anything about that movie. It was good. You were talking about Babe on Dan's stream and how well that held up. And then you watched Paddington and Paddington 2 based on my suggestion. Yeah, it's insane. Those movies are fucking nuts how good they are. Would you be up to give some advice on comic coloring? Sure, I'll do that in a second. I'm gonna answer this one real quick. If you don't mind asking me, or if you don't mind me asking, what would the minimum comic cover rate need to be for to be economical for you? I mean, honestly, I feel like it should be, I don't know, like $2,000 and up should be like a comic cover rate. Like if you compare it just to all other illustrations. Because I feel like everybody is underpaying to a decent amount in, the beginning of kind of, like every like entry level sort of art job has pretty significant, like low rates in, I'm saying this with the context that I've been in the field for like 20 years and the rates haven't really changed for a lot of those jobs. So everything should have gone up, and every other price in your life went up, but how you were getting paid from these companies didn't change. And like I think I only experienced like one price adjustment in that whole time, and that was from Wizards of the Coast. It wasn't like that significant, but they upped their rates. I haven't read that one, Raphael, but I did see it. It was awesome. For you freelancers, remember something: 33% of whatever you're paid will need to be paid at the end of the year and for taxes. Yeah. But after a certain amount of money, you guys should register as like an actual business, so you get taxed differently. Become an S corp, something like that, whenever that financially makes sense. So when I'm working on this comic in particular and I'm considering the colors, I'm more or less trying to convey certain moods, and because this comic has like a background texture color behind all the panels, I try and have that kind of mimic the feeling of what's going on in the page's composition. So I try to bring that in and unify the whole thing. But I mean, I feel like I'm fairly straightforward with how I'm using color to convey, certain feelings and things. I don't do anything too wild. My colors are very saturated and all that, but I'm not really doing anything that isn't slightly obvious, like high contrast points during like action and things, and making sure that the colors are more vibrant and exciting, and I'm conveying a certain feeling through that energy in the colors. Like when there's like happy periods and I'm showing like a flashback of something, then that has to have its own feeling, like of like warmth or whatever. So like all the line color will be warmer, the actual colors being used there, I'll have more like sun and whatnot. And then when this character's in this deep pit, there's a lot of like greens and blues and kind of cold, gross feeling colors. But yeah, I just try and think of how we relate to color and bring that into the pages. Any chance you could eventually do some content concerning freelance and how it would go about pricing yourself, negotiating in your early years? I mean, yeah, but it would kind of be more or less like, I wouldn't be giving advice based off of like starting out, because I'm so far removed from that, and how I started is different than how other people are getting rolling now. It's a different world. But yeah, I could talk about like basic principles and just kind of say what I did, regardless if it's helpful to everybody. There's a number of things that I wouldn't be able to teach on. Some of them are things that I'm lucky to have had, like my dad had me negotiate on his behalf when we went to antique stores when I was a little kid. And I feel like negotiating rates and things always came very natural to me, because I was used to having to talk to people about, getting a deal on something or whatever from my dad. So I use a lot of things that I kind of grew up knowing when I talk to people, do whatever business stuff. Sorry, I was looking at this like, what the hell? Why is there like this weird green chunk on this panel? That's what it's from. The hands. Okay. Watching you work on this has been really interesting. A lot of artists have tried to invoke the anime look with rendered backgrounds and two-tone characters, but it doesn't always work. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really trying to do anime. Not with this. I've just been trying to do kind of my own thing. I don't even really consider it that. I just wanted to do something weird, and I wanted it to be super high effort, because I like doing things that I kind of know nobody else is going to want to do. So I just think like, what would be a lot of work that would look really cool, but other people would just never want to follow me into that. And so that's kind of what these are. And I'm not really even considering like this being anything related to anime. This is just Starvale. It's got the influence. Kim wants you to describe the bagels to me and how much you enjoyed them. I mean, they were incredible. I had never had sourdough bagels, and I mean, just having bagels at home from scratch, from like a homemade starter, is insane. Kim's been on a tear, just making the best food ever. She made a Peruvian chicken dinner, and plantains. And God, the caramelized plantain, so good. And then also the Spanish rice and Peruvian chicken with that sauce, that pepper sauce, whatever it's called. Oh my God, that was legit one of the best meals I ever had in my life. It's insane. Do you have a Starvale soundtrack on your mind? No, not really. I can play you the old stuff that I used to think about. There's like that whole Laserhawk soundtrack, Visitors. That's kind of what I was thinking of when I made Starvale. I wanted something that felt like that. Let me see if I actually have it ready to go. Yeah, I gotta turn it on. What would you say are the top qualities that game development studios look for when seeking new artists? Creativity. I mean, strong execution, of course, of the work, but creativity. Just having cool ideas. Anyway, this was the music I used to think of when I thought of Starvale. I listened to it a lot while I was working on it. I specifically like the little breakdown in the song. Yeah, this part. Will I do an animated pilot of this in the near future? Nah, too crazy. Seeing your work makes you wish Square would hire you to do art directed Final Fantasy title. I'd love to do that. What are you planning on doing with this when you're done? Doing all the little word bubbles. Well, I'm just gonna get it printed, and then I'll have another comic out in the world. Am I offering any signed copies of this? I don't currently have plans for that. It's not impossible. This was the original little Patreon trailer I did for this comic. I always wanted to see if it was still up. Yeah, it's still up. Here you can see this. This was 10 years ago. Yeah, I made this little silly animation in Photoshop of the comic. I still like the idea of the overlay of the paper texture with the drawings and things moving underneath it. Man, that looked so bad though. Yeah, and I think the other one I had put up was this one, which was the little test animations. This video screwed up though because it wasn't the right frame rate. But this is all done in Photoshop, frame by frame too. I was just trying stuff. Yeah, this one got a super low frame rate, which stinks because that's actually a very smooth animation. How long did it take? I don't know. A while. It took a decent amount of time. And now we're here doing this comic. And then Starville. I'm excited to do comics in this style from now on. I feel like it's going to be good. I'm very much looking forward to it. You all can just hang out with me and watch me work on a billion pages of comics for the next, whatever, couple years. So if that sounds good to you, you can subscribe. You were looking at my work on DeviantArt from a while ago, and you like seeing my gradual growth. It was crazy to see the very fast growth from your early days up to your Garen piece. I just went nuts. I worked so much, like just constantly. Yeah, that was like that sprint just never stopped. I just continued to work at a really intense pace. But yeah, that's always what I kept up with, and you know, you just naturally get better over time. But I was trying to like speed run it, you know. I was just so impatient. think I'm gonna call this. I took drugs before this stream, and the drugs have been affecting me to the point where I'm looking at my process and going, am I doing the right process right now? Well, yes, I am. But yeah, I might just call it now, because my next step is hopping over into Krita and just getting into like the details of all of this. No, I didn't do cocaine. Do I sound like I did cocaine? I feel like the opposite of cocaine. Do you ever get wrist pains? Yeah, I do this stretch where you pull, arm out, stretch, pull your hand back, and then bend it forward like that. Yeah, I get some pain. I try not to overwork it. If I feel like it's starting to, act up, I usually take a break and just make sure I stretch and chill out a little and not use that arm so much. I mean, it's pretty rare for me that it happens to that extent where I have to really step away for a decent amount of time. But yeah, if it ever does kind of creep up on me, I'm very conscious of like stopping and not pushing through it, because you can push through it and fuck yourself up. Are there any power gays in Starvale? I don't know, what's a power gay? Like power bottoms? What are you saying right now? Yeah, I do the same sort of thing. It's like, that's really it. I just get that one pain, like tennis elbow kind of thing. But other than that, I'm usually fine. My desire for doing different things made me stuck. I know I should focus on one thing to grow. Should I focus on my strengths? If I drew comic for the longest, if I drew comics for the longest, should I focus on that? I mean, if it makes you happy. But if you feel like there's a different direction that would make you happy and excited to work every day and do the things that you want to do, then I would take that path over everything. Because, if you, like you got, what's that thing about if you like love what you do? Well, basically the idea is that if you do something for money and then the money goes away, you'll have nothing. If you do something that you love and the money goes away, you still have what you love to do. And I feel like that's a better way to kind of think about what direction you want to go in. It's just, will I love this? Would this mess me up forever? If I just stuck into this thing that I don't enjoy at all, would that be cool? Like, I don't know. I don't think so. It's up to you. It's going to be, each individual has to make that decision. Thanks, Jules. How did you end up getting your first client gig? Let me think. How did I get my very first one? Okay, my very, very first was I was on forums where people were making video games, and I didn't get paid for this. And I started working with a team to make a RPG, and I drew a bunch of anime characters, and I was like, I don't know, like 15, something like that, or like 14. And the next one that I got that actually paid me, I was 16, and I had been posting artwork on forums, but also on my MySpace. And I was a big fan of well, not like, I was just really early on, like looking at this band that hadn't really blown up or done anything yet, and I had reached out to them, and they had looked at my profile, and I had some artwork in my like MySpace profile, and then they hired me to do their cover for their album, which was like a DVD case to mimic a PlayStation 2 game, and that was Power Glove, back when I was 16. And that was my first like paid job where I had no relation to the person at all. They just reached out to me because of my work. And then from that point on, my next big job, I was 19. I had now been posting on a forum where you could put so you were specifically looking for work on there. And then I got brought on to be a storyboard artist for that Kill Switch Engage Holy Diver music video. So I storyboarded that when I was that age. And then that just got me like really excited to keep on going and, you know, see what else I could do. And I was very confident at the time. Bruh, I wish I was doing work like that at 16. Makes me feel inadequate because that didn't happen to me. Well, I really wanted to make stuff when I was a kid. Like, I made things all the time. I made like movies with my friends. I had been making my own comics since I was little, like since I can even remember. So I, like, when the internet was something that everybody had, you know, early days, it's like I had access to these other people working on stuff, and slowly but surely started like talking to more and more people to collaborate on things. And there was no money in it, but I had been working. I had like the seed of just kind of doing things on your own implanted in my mind from a really young age, and I was encouraged to work. And so I got my first job, I think, well, I was working earlier than this, but my first job on my own was like 13. And then before that, I was flagging down dirt bike racers down the street from me. And then before that, it's just whatever I could do. Like, and then I worked with my dad, who had a furniture moving business for most of my life. And so it was very much like self-directed kind of work in a lot of cases. And because of that, I just had it in my head of like, oh, I could just, you know, make my own business and do something. And so I just started looking for people to work with to do really cool stuff, like doing, you know, whatever game work. And then hopped on a little team project for like an RPG Maker 2K game. It was cool. And I was super into like programming games myself. I had previously like remade the when I was, I mean, I'm proud of this because I didn't know what I was doing at all, and I'm not good at math. But when I was what was I? Probably when I was like 16 or 15 or something, I remade the Final Fantasy VI battle engine in RPG Maker 2K. You could go into like code in the background of that software, and you could program your own systems. So I remade that battle system there based off of what they had already started to do in Kindred Saga, which was like an RPG Maker game back then. All very nerdy shit. But that's like what I was really into at the time when I was young. It was all like that kind of community, people who were making things. It was super fun. But all right, I'm gonna hop off of here. I appreciate you all hanging out with me. Thanks for all the questions and for talking and all. I will see you next Thursday, same time, 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Probably a longer stream next time. But yeah, thank you all. And I'll try and hop onto one of Dan's streams. If you don't know, My buddy Dan Warren, he's doing art streams and he pretty much does them all day, every day. So I hop into those when I can. But yeah, love to you all. I'll see you next time.